Have you ever noticed how much of your life is silently dictated by your need to be available? To answer every message, to be the friend who never says no, to show up even when your soul is screaming to rest. You've been trained by family, by culture, by fear, to believe that your worth is measured in how accessible you are to others. And yet deep down, there's a voice whispering, what would happen if I simply walked away? It's a dangerous thought, isn't it? The idea that you might stop being who the world expects you to be, that you might disappear, withdraw, detach. Because if you did, if you stopped being available, you suspect that everything around you would begin to unravel. And the truth is, you're right. Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Your constant availability is not an accident. It's a pattern woven from unconscious fear. The fear of rejection, of abandonment, of being seen as selfish or unworthy. You believe that if you are always there for others, they will never leave you. But this bargain is flawed, because the more available you are, the more invisible you become. Think about it. The person who never says no quickly becomes the person no one values. The employee who is always on call becomes the one most overlooked. The friend who is always ready to listen becomes the one no one bothers to truly hear. What you thought would protect you, constant presence, slowly erases you. This is the paradox of availability. The more you give yourself away, the less of you remains. Nietzsche understood this when he wrote of the Übermensch, the higher individual who dares to walk away from the herd. To break free, Nietzsche argued, requires not just strength, but solitude. Solitude not as loneliness, but as the crucible where a new self is forged. You cannot become who you are meant to be if you are always entangled in the demands of others. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Walking away is terrifying because it feels like death. And in some sense, it is. It is the death of the self you've been performing. The agreeable one, the reliable one, the one who bends until they break. That self has kept you safe, but at a cost. It has silenced your deeper longings. Imagine this. A man in ancient Athens, sitting in the marketplace. People approach him, trying to sell him things, to draw him into conversation, to recruit him into causes. He listens politely, but he smiles and refuses. His name is Diogenes the cynic philosopher. He owned almost nothing, lived in a barrel, and was infamous for mocking the powerful. Alexander the Great once stood before him and said, I can give you anything you wish. And Diogenes simply replied, stand out of my sunlight. Think about the power in that. The most powerful man in the world offered him everything, and he dismissed it as unnecessary. Why? Because true freedom is not found in what you gain, but in what you can walk away from. But you, sitting here now, may feel trapped. Trapped in a job you secretly hate. Trapped in relationships that drain you. Trapped in cycles of endless notifications that never let you breathe. And yet, if you look closely, you'll see that the cage isn't locked. The door has always been open. The only question is, do you have the courage to step outside? Machiavelli once warned that it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. That may sound ruthless, but think of it this way. The world respects those who set boundaries. The person who cannot say no is never respected, only used. To walk away is to reclaim not only your time, but your dignity. Of course, there is risk. When you stop being available, people will call you cold, distant, arrogant. They will test you. Some will vanish. But what you will discover is that those who truly matter will remain.
They will not value you for your constant sacrifice, but for your authentic presence.
Psychology tells us that human beings fear abandonment almost as much as death. This fear is primal. But there is another truth. Every great transformation requires abandonment. To grow, you must abandon the familiar, the old self, the patterns that once defined you. This is why rites of passage in ancient cultures often required isolation, fasting, or wandering into the wilderness, to lose yourself so that you might return as someone new. And maybe that's what you need right now. Not another message to reply to, not another task to complete, not another smile to offer when you feel empty inside. Maybe what you need is to walk away, to reclaim the parts of yourself you've been scattering to everyone else. Ask yourself, who would you be if you stopped performing? If you stopped being endlessly available? If you withdrew, even just for a while, to hear your own thoughts, your own desires, your own voice? You see, the world has taught you that availability equals love, but the opposite is true. Real love requires absence. It requires space. It requires the courage to step back so that presence can mean something again. Bonhoeffer, the German theologian who stood against the Nazis, once wrote, "Nothing can make up for the absence of someone we love. It is nonsense to say that God fills the gap. He doesn't, but He keeps it empty and so helps us to keep alive our communion with each other, even at the cost of pain." Absence does not destroy love. It deepens it. So if you dare to walk away, not forever, but enough to reclaim yourself, you will not lose everything. You will discover what truly belongs to you. The people who vanish were never yours to begin with. The opportunities that crumble were never aligned with you. And the silence that follows, that silence is where your true self has been waiting all along. But here is the twist. Walking away is not about escape. It's about return. You return not to the world's demands, but to yourself. You return with clarity, with strength, with the power to choose what truly deserves your time and energy. You return no longer as a slave to availability, but as a sovereign being whose presence finally means something. So the next time you feel the pull to be everywhere, to say yes, to keep giving until there is nothing left, remember this. Your absence is just as powerful as your presence. Use it wisely. Because when you stop being available, everything changes. The world no longer owns you. The endless demands no longer define you. You will walk away not in weakness, but in strength. And in that moment, you will discover a freedom that no one can take away. The question is not whether you can walk away. The question is, do you have the courage to? And if you do, you will realize what Diogenes already knew, what Jung suspected, what Nietzsche demanded, that the greatest power in life is not what you hold on to, but what you dare to let go of. So now I'll leave you with this thought. When you are no longer afraid to walk away, you will finally understand what it means to be free.